like to go back to what we did on Thursday, finish up that exercise in file management, and then submit it on Blackboard, which should actually act as a bridge to connect the two together. All right. On Thursday's class, we'll be finishing up the number systems and going to digital processing. We'll be talking about hardware. So before I leave today, I hope to have covered how to access Blackboard, how to submit an assignment, how to log into my IT lab, and how to get going with the simulations using, and I guess this week is going to be Microsoft Word. Okay? Your first lab, the lab for file management, is due this Thursday, right? So pay attention, take notes, ask questions. If you've already started working on the lab over the weekend, when I get into the file management stuff, ask those questions. Be like, that's what I was having a trouble on, and Okay? Any questions before we get started? All right, so just to review, last week when we met, I just grabbed a deck of cards and I said this is just going to be a visual aid for us to help us understand what's going on in the computer. I said we organize our files to make them easier for us to find. That's it. This organization style is dependent on the user. It's your style, folks. The way I structured it was using folders. I said we are going to have a folder that will represent this box. We're going to call it the deck of cards. Inside this box, we're going to have other folders. In this particular example, we used the suits, right? We said hearts, clubs, spades, diamonds. Then inside those, we're going to have our playing cards, correct? What type of file did we choose? Remember, a file consists of two parts, a name and a file type, correct? We decided to use text. Why did we decide to use a text file format instead of a Word document?
You can open text with a lot more programs.
It's the most universal file format. Okay? So if you guys are in trouble and you need to submit an assignment to me, you will notice that my assignments are in a PDF format. A PDF format is more like a digital hard copy, if you will. The P stands for portable. Bless you. The D stands for document, F stands for format. But what do I mean by portability? It's not like a laptop, you pick it up and go. It's more of that it's acceptable by all computer platforms. All right? I have no idea what type of computer you're using, bless you. What computing device, more importantly, you're using. Whether it's a tablet, a smartphone, a laptop, a desktop, hell, even your PlayStation 3. And so I choose to use a PDF because it's portable. However, the drawback, as I said, is it's a digital hard copy. You will not be allowed to change that file. Think about it. If I ask a question on one of your labs or one of your assignments, and you don't quite know the answer to that question, but if you reword the question around a little bit and you know the answer to that then, and when I go to grade it and I read the new question, I'm like, yep, that's the right answer. So your assignment sheets will be done in a PDF. By all means, print them out. So when we get to Blackboard, I'll have you guys print out the lab file management assignment sheet. This way you can naturally just write on them. However, you cannot submit a printout copy via Blackboard. Hence the reason why it's important to learn how to create a file using Notepad or Microsoft Word. I know what the questions are. All I need from you is your answers. So simply, you would write in a file the name of the assignment, your name underneath it, and then one dot, and then the answer to question 1. Then enter 2 dot, and then the answer for question 2. And that's what you submit to me. We're trying to get away from this to more of a digital paper. So like I said, this exercise in file management is designed for you guys to get into Blackboard, learning how to download files, storing those files you downloaded in the right folder so you can retrieve them. If you come to me the next day in class and said I had a problem submitting a file, I will ask to see your flash drive. I should be able to plug it in, navigate to where that file is, and upload it to my assignment so I can grade it. If I have to dig through it, it's going to make it a very unpleasurable experience, which has a negative effect on your grade. Okay? However, that's your get out of jail free card. If you are experiencing technical difficulties with Blackboard or My IT Lab, and I am aware of this issue, last semester it was Hurricane Sandy. It wiped out one of the Pearson servers, so students could not submit things onto My IT Lab. And I told them, well, probably shouldn't have waited till the last day. And when they came to see me, I was like, well, where's your flash drive? Let me see your work. Some of them had it, some of them didn't. All right? Word of advice, if you're going to come and see me and it's about a file, make sure you have access to that file, whether it's your Google Drive, a flash drive, or even an email. Okay? So let's finish that exercise off. The way we're going to finish that exercise off is let's go back to Documents. Now, it's funny. When it comes to Windows 7, the way to access your Windows Explorer is come down here to the lower left corner. Next to your Start button is sort of like an upright folder. You guys see that icon? If you hover over it, as we were talking about this, sometimes it'll pop up with a little tooltip, and it should say Windows Explorer, which is different than Internet Explorer, right? So you're down at the taskbar. You're going to click on that icon that looks like a folder, represents Windows Explorer. By default, what should open up is the Libraries folder. Is that what it opens up for you guys? Remember, we are trying to get away from that old paradigm of file management, files and folders, into this new structure of using labels or tags, correct? So as we get into the operating system, I will show you how to tag things. But for now, let's just go back to the old way of managing files and folders. Let's double click on Documents. My question to you guys as a class is, how do you know when to double click and when to single click? Personally, I think it's all asinine. I mean, because obviously when you look at something, unless you have developed the experience, it doesn't come natural when to double click. Like, would you guys double click on the Start button? Why not? But yet, the icons above it, you would double click on it, correct? So when do you double click and when do you single click? Well, the only word of advice I can give you is you click once. You wait a second. If it does absolutely nothing, then what do? Try a double click, right? I know it's silly. It's to each is their own. You'll find out items over here are single click. Items over here are double clicked. What do you gain by single clicking? Now we need to explain this in the sense that you're teaching a 5-year-old. Let me get the door. So what do we gain by single clicking? What does that let the computer know? I mean, because every time you are clicking, you're giving a command to the computer. I mean, in fact, the mouse is I like to say, the number one input, our number one device that we use to interact with our computer, if you will. A lot of people say the keyboard. And I guess if you count for each letter that you hit on the keyboard, you'd be right. But we're moving away from the keyboard and getting into more of a natural user interface where we speak with our devices. So what does a single click inform the computer? There's a million different items on that screen that can be touched by you using your mouse, correct? How does the computer know that's the particular item that you want to work with? A single click lets you know that's the one I want. How are you informed that the computer has recognized that item as being active? It's highlighted, typically in blue, right? So if you click once, automatically that item that you clicked on becomes active. Then if you double click, typically it opens it up. We good about that? By default, icons are the ones that get double clicked. Buttons, links are usually single clicked. Okay, now I say this because in a minute I'm going to maximize this window and I'm going to find the files that we worked with and we're going to rename them. We're going to open them up, we're going to modify them. But I want to make sure that I built this foundation so you feel pretty comfortable selecting something. So let me maximize this window by coming up to the upper right corner. I prefer doing that because I'm a simple person. I only want to see one thing going on and nothing more. The only thing I want to see on your screen right now as I walk by them is just this documents folder. Now this screen's going on a little too much and the icons are too small for me to project to you so you can see what I'm working with. The view that I am currently in is called Detail View. Are you guys in the same view as I am? Okay, so see some people have it differently. If you're using Windows 7, up here in the upper right part of the window is an icon here with an arrow pointing down. Let's click on that. Now I sort of like this because I can grab the slider and as I move up, my icons are going to get larger. But I get to see less. This is a great thing to use when you're dealing with pictures because obviously a name like image underscore 015878 doesn't really describe the photo, correct? By coming into like large icons or thumbnail view, you get to see everything. Let's just do that. I'm going to drag that up so it's easier for you guys. So the people in the back, are you able to see my files now? The only drawback is I sort of lose the detail information. Like when the file was created, who created it, when it was last modified, what type of file is, and most importantly, what the size of the file is. Right? This is easier on the eyes. Allows me to focus just on the files, but it doesn't give me the details. So when we finish this exercise, once again, we'll change our view to Detail View to get some file size information. Everybody good about that? Just make sure that we're on the same page. All right, now you have to remind me, I think the last time we were talking, I was sort of in a hurry, and I just basically laid out what we're going to be doing today. I believe you guys created a file called ACE 2 and 3, is that correct? And then I went off on my own and created 4, 5, and 6. You notice 4, 5, and 6 is a little bit different than ACE 3 and 2. On your screen, does it look like a sheet of paper with lines on it? Does it look like just a plain old document? All right. Let's see what happens when you try double-clicking on the file. So I'm going to double-click on 4. Did this pop up? Okay, little review. Why did this happen? What does the operating system use to determine what type of, what file a program should be opening up in? The file type. In fact, let's hit cancel. I knew this was going to happen only because, let's take a look at all the other files I have going on. If it's a folder, the operating system gives it a nice little pretty icon of a folder. If it's a Word document, I see the blue W. If it's a PDF, it's there. In fact, you might have some of these files on your folder, but I get a generic page. Anytime you get a generic page in Windows 7, it's telling you that the operating system has no clue on what program to open it up with. But wait a minute. We used Notepad to create this file. Shouldn't have Notepad added a what file extension to the end of it? TXT. But the Notepad that we did not do it. So how do we tell the operating system that this particular file is a text file? Well, we're going to rename it. So choose the ACE file, and you guys can rename in many different ways. I really don't care which way you do it. You come up here to the Organize button after you clicked on the file. And if you click on that, there should be the Rename command. You could right-click on the file, and somewhere in those list of commands should be the Rename. Or you could press F2 on your keyboard. To each is their own. I'm going to right-click on the file, come down here, and choose Rename. Now be careful. Do you see that those letters are highlighted in blue? What have we learned about when something's highlighted in blue? It's active, right? So it's letting you know that whatever you touch on your keyboard, it's going to affect this. Watch what happens when I type in .txt. Did you see it destroyed the letters 4? Which I'm going to hit the escape key. And when I hit the escape key, it cancels out of the command, right? This time I'm going to hit F2. You see when I hit F2, I'm back to the rename. There's more than one way to doing it. If your hands are on the keyboard, you can save yourself a whole lot of time. Now, if you're a salary employee, you know your keyboard shortcuts. If you're an hourly employee, use the mouse, come all the way up here, click on here, and it'll take you longer to get something done, which means you make more money. This is why most office people should be salary. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my right arrow, and when I do that, it should deactivate the text, but more importantly, it puts it at the end. We good about that, folks? And that's where I need to add my file extension. So let me put a .txt and hit enter. When you do that, did your icon now change to a sheet of paper with lines on it? Now double click on it and see if it opens up in a notepad text editor. Does it do that for everybody now? All right, let's close out of that because I need to illustrate another point. I have some Word documents in my folder. Do you think by me clicking on the file and then, right-clicking on the file and choosing rename, and then at the end of it adding .txt would automatically convert the file into a text format? So what I would like to do is take this Word file and make it portable and save it as a text format. Now I just showed you that if you rename a file and put a dot at the end of it followed by 3 magical letters, it'll make it into a file that you can open it up, correct? So my next question is, if I rename my Word document and replace the DOC with a TXT, would it automatically convert the file from a Word document to a Notepad file? 50-50, it's either yes or no. What do you guys think? No? All right, if you answered no, you are correct. Why is that? Remember when I was talking about how those zeros and ones are being used to represent letters? Every program has its own way of encoding the data. We good about that? Or I should say encoding the information into data. The operating system is just a table, if you will. It's a foundation. It's a way for us to interact with the programs. We good about that? It handles all the background stuff. Its job is not to understand what every different file format is. That's what programs are for. In order for you to change a file format, you must go to the program that created that original file and use the Save As feature, which I do believe we demonstrated last Thursday. Right? So don't get in your mind that, hey, I don't like that PDF. I can simply right-click on it, remove the last 3 letters of the file name, and add my own, and create my new format. Okay? Here's the other issue I need to bring to your attention. Do you notice that when I clicked on that, the .doc or the .docx did not appear? Okay, that could be problematic when you're changing file names. So I want to show you how to go about that so you can show your file extensions to every file. This becomes important because when we start uploading these files into Blackboard, you might see that that's the wrong format. I believe the file format that you guys have to use when you upload your activity is a zip file. So you're going to be creating a compressed folder. So let's go up to Organize. And you guys have this command over here that says Folder and Search Options. Let's click on that. I know it's the beginning of the semester, but it doesn't hurt to build up those extra credit points. I believe it was Jessica last week that earned the extra credit point, right? Or Ashley, one of the two. I have it on my... You guys, well, then I won't reward it if you forgot your extra credit. I have it on my attendance sheet. But anybody can tell me what this box is called? I gave you a hint. It's a box. It's not a window. Dialog box. There you go, Morgan. So you get a point. How do you know the difference between a window and a dialog box? This window here had the minimize, maximize, or the restore down button, right? Does this box have that? Now, why do I make a big point? One, the box does not appear down in my taskbar. As you open up programs, they appear down here, right? Two, this dialog box belongs to that window, correct? So if I want to do something to this window, I have to close out of this dialog box. So I make a big point about that because you guys might be clicking over here all the time and realizing nothing's happening because this box is open. So let's click on this tab called View. Over on the left, underneath Advanced Settings, you're going to have an option that says Hide Extensions for Known File Types. Do you guys have that? There's a checkbox in there. Remove that checkbox. And then click OK. Now I like that. Do you see now I have my file name and then a dot, my file type? I know it's a subtle change. But take a look at ACE. It's ace.txt for me. But up here, it's just 5. This is now officially confirming my assumption that this did not have a file type, right? So why don't you guys rename your other 2 files? I think it's 2 and 3. Oh, you do? Yep, go ahead, rename those. What's that saying? Many hands make less work. Is that correct? We have 52 cards, and I promised you guys last Thursday that we should be able to get this exercise done in a few minutes. So we're going to create one more just to review, just to show you. If you didn't have file 6 or card 6, you're going to create that. And then I'm going to show you the process of using save as so you can create 8, 9. However, as a class, I'm going to assign you guys different cards, if you will. And then we're going to save it to a server. The server is a centrally located device that allows us to save our files so that we can share them with other people. Now, 80s, 90s, nobody knew what a server was, and the size of these servers would be literally the size of homes, buildings. And nobody ever would have imagined that one day they would fit inside the palm of your hand, let alone that every home in America would be having a file server. In your lifetime, you guys will be having a device, whether it's an old PC or even a brand new one, that's going to be dedicated for that purpose. It'll probably back up all the other devices in your house. When you have a digital camera and you walk into your house, it'll automatically download those photos right to the server and share them with everybody else. Your movies will be streamed to any other device but stored on one computer. The list goes on and on and on. So that notion of corporate America, the internet, and how we share information is becoming more and more affordable, and people are becoming more and more intelligent, that what I'm going to show you at the end will be commonplace, and your 5-year-old will be navigating to the server. This concept of local storage, flash drives, big computers, going to be trivial. In fact, I'm willing to argue that your server will be so powerful that all you'll carry around is a dummy tablet. And your tablet will have a terminal access to your server. All the processing power is done on the server because all you really care about is interacting with the data, correct? Watching the movie. Does it matter where it's stored? As long as it doesn't say buffering, correct? You buy one computer, and then you hand out tablets to everybody else in the house. A lot cheaper. Sort of ass backwards, because that's what we used to do in the 80s, and we thought that was too slow. Now we're going back to that, because now we're thinking, well, it's perfect. All of our data stored here, it's automatically backed up, and if I get a virus on my tablet, all I got to do is turn it off and turn it back on, and it's gone. How often are we losing files because of viruses or whatever? Or our computers just getting old, getting outdated. You buy a new one, then you got to transfer all those programs. In fact, one could argue about applications. I don't believe we'll download and install applications anymore. I believe you will be having a monthly access membership to sites, because your internet connection to that server will be so fast that when you click on it, the application looks like it was installed locally. What's the benefit about doing that? One, you can pay per use. If you only need to touch up with that photo, why go out and buy a $300 Photoshop application when you just go onto Adobe's website and touch it up for a couple bucks? Two, cross-platform. You don't have to install it on that computer, then on this one, on that one. You sign in on any device, anywhere. So I'll save that philosophy to the networking part of the course. But everything ties together. This concept of files being stored locally is going to vanish. And you're going to see that when we get done with this. So remind me, how do I create a new file? You guys told me, go down here, right-click, come to new. And I said, yeah, that way would work, but I prefer not doing that way. What's the other way of creating a new text file? In fact, let's spruce it up. Let's create a rich text format. The difference between a rich text format and RTF versus TXT is you can actually change fonts, you can give them color, you can add pictures, and you can even embed a table. In fact, that's the format that I prefer my students submit files to. And eventually, as the class goes on, I'll be handing out assignment sheets through RTFs. So how do I create an RTF file instead of a text file? Let's go to Start. Let's click on All Programs. Let's click on Accessories. And you guys have WordPad? So you're going to Start, you're clicking on All Programs, then you click on the folder called Accessories, and then somewhere in that list of items, there should be WordPad. Do you guys have that? Once again, that comes with Windows. That comes with Windows since back with Windows 3.1. So there should be no excuse that I didn't have the program to open up your RTF. You might give me a hard time about opening up a Word document, right? So here we are. The new version in Windows 7 actually looks like a Word 2010. It's got the little ribbon up there. It's got some tabs. A lot different than the old WordPad. But nevertheless, it should behave no differently. Let's type in, 7? Is that the card that we're on? I really don't care now. But it's just an exercise in creating files. Notice I'm not saying 7 of hearts, right? Or 7 of diamonds like I did last week. And the reason I'm deciding not to do that is because it almost introduced inflexibility. That if I were to copy the 6 of hearts and paste it into the clubs folder, what would I have to do? Open up that file, change the content of that file so it says 6 of clubs, correct? But I'm just basing it off of where the file is located. If it's located in the hearts folder, then this should be the 7 of hearts. By the way, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I ask you guys that when you submit an assignment, you say lab file management, okay? Because when you upload it to me, you literally take it out of the location that you have developed. I don't know what folder it's in, because all I'm getting is the file. By the way, you are not allowed to upload folders on the internet. Folders are an abstract thing. One, they're just a tag, if you will. Second, could you guys think of the disadvantage of uploading a folder is compared to uploading a file? Which one's going to contain more data, a folder or a file? A folder will, right? A folder is going to contain many files, correct? So when you upload a folder, you could be uploading your whole computer to me, which I don't want. I just want the assignment sheet, correct? So they sort of stop you from uploading folders. But the question students have when it comes to the lab file management is, well, Nick, you told me to create the folder CSIT 1390, then inside there a lab folder and a lecture folder. How do you know I did that? That's where folder compressions come in. You compress those folders into a file, then I extract them, and then I can see your folders. Okay? So 7, where do I go to save this? Back in the day, it used to be called File. Go ahead, click on that upper left corner tab, little blue tab. When you click on that, you guys see the Save and Save As? No different than what we had in Notepad? Which one should I pick? Why it was either one worked this time? It doesn't know where to save it to, what to call it, and what type you want, right? So if you choose Save or Save As, the Save As dialog box should pop up, right? It looks exactly like the same dialog box that came up with Notepad. We are in the Documents folder. Everybody good with that? All right. Where it says File Name, type in 7. And where it says Save As Type, let's just leave it as an RTF. We good with that? Let's hit Save. Let's close out of the WordPad file. Interesting. You notice when I created those text files, it opened up, it looked like this icon, looks like a notepad, if you will. But when I created the 7 file and ended it with a RTF, did you guys get the blue E? I'm sorry, the blue W? Well, when you look at it from here, no. Why did that happen? What does that blue W represent? It represents Word. And why Word and not WordPad? Word has an ego. If it can open up and accept different file formats like DOC, like DOCX, like RTF, Word's going to be like, I'm taking that file over. So now when you double click, and please do so, double click on the 7, Word opens up. So we call this a file association. Word doesn't only associate to DOCs and DOCX, but if it's installed on your computer, it might associate with other file formats, which might be problematic. Let's close out of this, because if you don't know Word, and I just showed you how to use WordPad, you're like, there's no way I can complete the lab. So can anybody tell me how I can open this file up with WordPad right from here?
Right-click and open with.
Right-click on the file, come up where it says Open With, and now choose WordPad. All right, let's close out of that. Tell me, guys, how are you going to copy this file and make a copy of this file inside this folder? Now, what have we learned? A folder cannot have 2 or more files with the same name, correct? And the same file type. Both the name and the file type have to be the same. So when I right-click on 7 and choose Copy, I'm going to scroll down and find a non-busy area, like this white area down here. I'm going to right-click anywhere in that white area, and I'm going to choose Paste. Should it not be a problem? Should it cause an issue? Should something pop up telling me, hey, Nick, you can't be doing this? Back in the day, that's what would have happened. If you right-clicked and pasted in the same folder that file came from, it would have said this operation cannot be done. What does newer versions of Windows do to prevent that? it automatically renames the file and adds the word copy to the end of it. All right, rename that to 8. So let me hit F2. I'm going to leave the file extension on there. Be very careful. Now that your view displays the file type, you got to leave that file type on there. If you were to remove it like I'm about to do right now, it's going to yell at me and say, are you sure you want to change the file type? Well, why is that a big deal? Let me say yes. And the reason why that's a big deal is because I might not know what program to use to open up that file. For all you know, this could be a picture, correct? Could be a Word document. It could be a text document. So be careful when you're renaming files not to destroy the file type or the extension. So RTF. All right, let's open that up in WordPad. So right-click on that. Choose WordPad. Delete 7 and replace it with 8. Now what are you going to use? Save or save as? Why save now? You already gave it a location, right? It was already in that documents folder. It already has a file type, RTF. And you already gave it a name, ironically. So all you did was change the content. What's the quick way of doing that with a keyboard? Control S. That should be tattooed in the back of your hand, your left hand particularly. I'm obsessive compulsive. Every time I create new files, every 2 seconds, if I type the letter A in my file, I'm always holding that control key tapped in the letter S. It literally takes a millisecond. So I'm just typing away, and all of a sudden my fingers just it's like they got a mind of their own. Control S. Goes without thinking. But be very, very careful. When I grab my files from last semester over to this semester, I got to stop myself from hitting that Control S because I want to keep last semester files alone. I want to preserve them to the way I taught them last semester, and I want to copy them over to this semester and change and make any changes that I do have to this semester. See what I'm saying? So if you guys ever come to me like X number of years ago, I'd be like, let me get that folder up. Here's the lecture that I went over. Okay? So be careful of that Control S. Sometimes it can be destructive. All right, let's close out of that. Let's get some of these organized. Right now I have ACE, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, correct? How do I create a new folder? If you're so happen to have this up here, sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't. It might say new folder up there. I like to teach a way that's universal and will always work for you guys. And I love that right-click method. So find a non-busy area, like right here in this white. I'm going to come down here, I'm going to right-click in there. And then I'm going to come up to New. And I'm going to choose Folder. What have we been working on? Was it hearts, diamonds? Is it hearts? All right, let's type in hearts. Hit enter. You notice folders appear up here, but files appear underneath that? It's just the way they organize, and folders have a higher priority than your files, correct? Reason being is you'd always have your folders in your files in some folder. All right, so now how do I move these files up to that folder? You could. I want to move. I don't want to copy.
You can click and drag.
You click and drag. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't. You got to be careful. In this case, that would move it. Why would it move it here? Let me give you a demonstration. So a student suggested that I click on the file, wait a second, click and hold, and drag it on top of the folder and let go. You notice it says move to hearts. But now I'm going to give another demonstration. Let me bring that over to here. And let me open up a new window. Let me bring that. Oh, well, that won't work, will it? There we go. It sucks when you have two monitors, guys. You can't get away with that shortcut in Windows 7. There we go. Now let me show you a different way. Using the same thing, but I'm going to get a different result. Let me find one of those. Here's 8. Click on it. click and hold, and I drag it over here. But notice when I do that, it says copy to backup. So let me do that. Copy to backup. Notice the file here still remains the same. 8's still there. When I drug the ace up to hearts, it disappeared. It moved. But when I dragged the 8 from there to my flash drive, it copied. So the drag method can be a drag from time to time. That is, you never know what you're going to get, whether it copies or moves, unless you know this rule. Do you notice that these files and folders have the same parent? What do I mean by that? They all belong to the folder called Documents, correct? If they have the same parent, when you drag them and drop them into each other, they will be moved. When they are owned or being moved to another parent, they are copied. And that's sort of a safety mechanism. Because if I want to grab something over to my flash drive is portable. If I were to move it over there and lose my flash drive, what's going to happen to the file? It's going to get lost. So by dragging it and dropping it onto my flash drive, it'll copy. All right? There's a way around that by right-clicking and holding. So if I right-click and hold on 8 and drag it to hearts and let go, I get some choices. Move, copy, or create shortcut. Let me choose move here. Now I know that file was being moved and not copy, but there is an alternative. And that's using the cut command instead of copy. In fact, I'm going to get all these files all in one shot. And I'm going to do it in a way that allows me to skip over these and select these other files too. Do you notice that my 7 is here, but my 5, 4, 6, 3, and maybe 2 is over there? I'm going to click first on the 7 file. It's highlighted in blue. Now I'm going to hold the control key on my keyboard. By holding the control key, I'm allowed to select non-adjacent files. Do you see each time that I click on these files, they're getting highlighted in blue? The control key basically is telling the computer, as you're holding that, you're selecting more files. That's different than trying to draw a selection box, right? Because I didn't want these 2 files. So control allows you to select non-continuous files. Okay? Demonstration that separates it differently. Let me click on 7. Let me hold the shift key and click on 2. When I hold the shift key, it selects all the files between the first file and the last file. Do you see the difference between continuous and... Now I can hold the control key and click back on the 2 files I want to remove from my list. Okay? Control Shift. They're time savers. In this particular example of only like 7 files, who knows? All right, now I right-click on any one of those files that are active. Choose Cut. Double-click on Hearts. Right-click anywhere in the white area and choose Paste. So we covered move, right? Now, how do we get out of this folder? By the way, see the location up in the address bar? Reads library, documents, hearts. What are a couple ways of getting out of that? One could say the back arrow. Maybe that works, maybe that doesn't. You can come over here, click on Documents, guaranteed to work. But I love this new feature in Windows 7. Come up here in the address bar and click on Documents. Oh, that's where you meant? Sorry. Yeah, either or. I just love that. In the old days, it just read it off as a text string, C:\\/ something, something, something. And then you had to delete that to get there. Today, it's beautiful. In fact, what happens? You click on the triangle next to it. Because that's different than the text itself. Gives you a list of what we call subdirectories or subfolders. Okay. Why don't you guys copy the hearts folder? So let me right click on that, choose copy. Remember, I'm going to come down here to that non-busy white area, right click, and choose paste. Now it says hearts-copy. Rename that, call it clubs. So I'm going to click on that, right click on it then, choose rename. We're calling it clubs. All right. Last week I showed you guys how to count. This time, when I showed you how to count in another number system, correct? So your new number system begins with 2. Now let's get it. We started with ace last week, right? Ace was our 1. So your new number system is the ace. And where's it going to end at, Mitch? So Mitch, hopefully it ends at you and you can be the king for today. All right. Morgan, start off the class. You're ace, right?
Ace.
Tina? Look at that. That did work out. Feel pretty good about it. Yeah, puff that chest up. Everybody call him King Mitch. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to change gears a little bit. We're going to go into a shared folder. And you guys will be able to get all those done in a second. This really is helpful as an instructor because if I go to post something just for you guys to have, I will do it over here where it says public. Do you guys have that P drive? This drive can only be accessed from this network. It will not be accessed from home. So over on the left in this hierarchy of things, do you guys have underneath computer, public? Please, I'm trying this out. This is something new. Click on public. By the way, if you're watching this at home, you will not have this because this is a drive stored locally. It's in our server in the other room. Now, if all goes well, you guys should have a folder called 1390, and that's the only folder you have. Is that right? Now we're creating things called permissions. You'll notice on my screen I have 2 folders, CSNT 1200 as well as 1390. Those folders only exist one place, but only those who have privileges gets to see them. Open up the 1390 folder. Now I have to warn you, whatever you type in there, everybody will be able to see it. Do you guys have that Windows 7.vdi in there? All right. Now, I am going to create the new folder. Give me a second. I'll come up here to this button as Ashley mentioned, and I will click on that, and I will call this one, let's see, what do we have? We haven't done spades, right? If I hit enter, does everybody have that on their screen? Isn't it called spades? All right. Everybody, open up that folder. Now, it's empty. Populate it. Right-click anywhere. Oh no, let's see. What are we doing? We're doing WordPad, right? So the way you guys were taught is click on the Start button. Go to All Programs. Click on Accessories. Click on WordPad, and type in your number. Since I lacked the card, I'll be the joker. I guess that's a card, right? And this worked out really well. I'm glad the one student didn't show up today. I'd be 1 card short. It's better to be the joker than the 0 card, right? All right, now let's go up to the little blue button up top. Click on that. Click on Save As, right? Now things get a little quirky because we're not saving it here, right, guys? We're saving it so we can all get this done in one exercise. So maybe over here on the left side, you can scroll down to another drive. So now you're learning how to change drives. You could have done it to your flash drive, but that would be private. So we click on Public, Content over here changes. Now we click on 1390. And oh, somebody was cute and followed me along with the new folder, but that's all right. Let's open up Spades. Replace the file name to your actual file, so I'll be Joker. And then click Save. Close out of that WordPad file. And watch the whole list start populating. Notice you didn't call it like 2 of spades and 3 of spades. You just kept it through. All right, let's see. 2. Where is 3? 3 should be coming eventually.
I don't know. I tried.
Okay. Let's take a look at it. You didn't have to own up to it. I wouldn't have known any differently. All right, so let's go up here and click on this blue button.
I did the new folder too.
All right, no problem. Click on Save As. And let's open up Spades. So you have it just in 1390, but we need to open up this folder. Yep, there you go. And then now hit Save. You'll be good. All right, close out of that, and 3 should pop up if all goes well. All right, let's see. I have Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, where's 10? 10 was here. And then we went to what? Jack. And Queen should be somewhere there. And then King is... There you are. Thank you. All right, so now we said Ace to 10 is 10 cards, right? Then the 3. So there should be 13 cards, right? If all goes well, where it says down here, but then I have the Joker, right? So that's 14. And so I have 15 items, as you can see, just down here, using this little status bar area. So I just have this one extra one. I'm going to click on that, and to delete a file, once you click once on it, it's highlighted in blue. You can hit the delete key on your keyboard. Now you notice it will be permanently deleted. Please do not delete any other files. I just felt that the document was extraneous. Now I'm going to click Yes. And it says it couldn't be found because somebody else deleted it before me, but that's all right. So this is the thing about shared spaces. I gave you guys all permissions to be able to add, remove, and change. But the work got done real fast. We are taking this technology, moving on to the web, and we're calling it collaborative workspaces. Like Google Docs is one example. So when you guys do your group project or an individual project, depends on which direction I go with it, you'll be able to do this concept via the web. And what makes this concept nice when it becomes web friendly? You can do it anywhere on any device at any time. Here, the only way you can access this folder is if you're here locally. It's a local server. And we do not have privileges to the outside world. Okay? So, now, let's click on the 1390 folder right up top in the location bar. And we have Spades. This is where we need to be. Absolutely. In fact, please, pause time. Let me back this file up. Because sometimes this happens. And, all right, I'm backed up. Because I know somebody might do a move on me. And then everybody else loses this. Because we're all using this, correct? So it's better to copy that folder called Spades than it is to move it. Because everybody in here wants a copy of it, correct? So, right-click on the folder called Spades. Choose Copy. Now, over here, choose Documents. Anywhere in a non-busy area, right-click and choose Paste. And if all goes well, you guys should now have clubs, hearts, and spades, correct? All right. Now I'm going to show you file management on the fly. You notice the way we've been creating files and folders is through Windows Explorer. What if you opened up or downloaded one of my lab assignments and you're like, I haven't created that folder for this assignment yet. And you don't want to come all the way down here because I know it's a couple extra feet for you to get to that point. And then navigate to where you need to be, whether it's your flash drive, then into the 1390 folder. And you want to do it within the program. whether it's within Word, whether it's in WordPad. Because remember, no matter what program we were using, we still had that Save As dialog box was the same. So let's do this. We're going to create a folder called Deck of Cards, but we're going to create this folder. Actually, let's do the one that we're lacking, right? We're missing, what, diamonds? So we're going to create the folder diamonds, but we're not going to create it in using Windows Explorer. I strongly recommend that you guys do that, but that's you having a vision, having a game plan. I need to create this folder, and this folder. Most of the time, it's not that. You're creating some files, and you're like, maybe it'd be great to organize these. How can I do it within the program that I'm in? Seems logical, right? Let's do it. Let's click on Start. Let's go to All Programs. Let's click Accessories. And let's click on WordPad again. Call it ACE. Let's go back up to that blue button on the upper left corner. Click on the arrow pointing down and choose Save As. Make sure you are in the Documents library, right? Now do you see that command that says New Folder right here? And if you don't have that, you can always right-click in a non-white area, non-busy area, so in a white area, I should say. In this case, it's hard to get that area. Come where it says New, click Folder. You should have a new folder. It should say New. It's highlighted in blue, right? Type in Diamonds. Hit Enter. Open up the folder called Diamonds by double-clicking. Could you create a new folder inside this folder? Just repeat the process. Click on New Folder, give it a name. You guys don't have to do that. I'm just giving you the example that could be done. All right, where it says File Name, let's give that a name and call it ACE. And let's click Save. So that was a 7-second, probably a 7-minute explanation on how to create folders on the fly. Just look for the new folder or use the right-click method, and you should be able to create folders where you want to with any program. When you download a file and it says where would you like to save the file, you can do a new folder right from there. All right, let's create that deck of cards. Let's close out of the WordPad file. Go ahead in this folder called Documents, create a new folder, call it Deck of Cards. Move all your other folders that deal with cards inside this deck of cards. I'm going to drag the clubs, drop it on top of deck of cards. It says Move, which is what I want. And I'm going to do that for diamonds, hearts, as well as, if I can find the silly one, where are you? Spades. Once you do that, open up the deck of cards. And if all goes well, your deck of cards should have clubs, diamonds, hearts, spades right over there. And obviously you can open up spades. Where's the joker at? I want you guys to delete that joker file. Remember, this is a local copy. Pay attention to your location. Libraries documents, that's stored locally. It doesn't say public. So I want you guys to delete the card, joker. So I'm going to right-click on that. Come down here and hit Delete. Notice this time when it says, are you sure you want to delete it, it ends up in the recycle bin. Be very careful. Sometimes files will end up in Neverland, and you can't get them back, quote unquote. And sometimes they'll end up in the recycle bin. In the earlier demonstration when I was deleting a file called Documents from the network drive, it showed up and said, are you sure you want to delete it because it will be permanently removed? I did the same thing here. I right-clicked on a file, went down, chose Delete, but now it says, are you sure you want to delete it? It'll be moved to the recycle bin. Can anybody explain the difference between those two messages popping up the way they did? Why did one go to Neverland and the other one's going to the recycle bin? The public drive wasn't stored on my computer. It's a remote drive, just like your flash drive. It can come and go. I do not have, well, let me just use this analogy. You went to go visit your friend, your car was messy, you guys are going to go someplace, and you didn't have room because all your McDonald's garbage was in the passenger seat. So your friend said, oh, I'll just throw it in my garbage can. All right, no big deal. You guys are in a hurry, you got to go catch that movie. So you grab everything that's in your front seat, throw it in the garbage can, watch the movie, you come back, you drop your friend off, you go home, and you're like, oh, I got that damn lab file management assignment that I have to do. Like, no big deal. It's in my car, passenger side. So you go to your car, passenger side, and you're like, oh, that's right. I threw it all out at my friend's house. Does it make sense for you to go to your garbage can to try to get it back? Your flash drives are portable. They can go from computer to computer to computer to computer. You can delete files off your flash drive no matter what computer you are on. Does it make sense for that computer to decide to put it in its recycle bin? No. If it's not a permanent quote-unquote drive that's physically part of your computer, that isn't quote-unquote removable, then it won't end up in the recycle bin. Okay? That might be one of your questions on your lab. Now there's another thing I'd like to bring to your attention. Let's back up out of this file. Let's go to deck of cards. So I'm just going to come up here to the address bar, click on deck of cards. All right. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up, we started with hearts, so let's open up hearts. This time I'm going to change my view. Let's come over here to this little arrow pointing down, and I'm going to click on details. Do you notice now it's telling me the file type, when it was created, the name, and the size of the file? They're all 1 kilobyte. A rule of thumb. 1 letter, 1 byte. Yes?
I have one that's 31.
Okay, that's exactly what I want. Yep. Does it end with an RTF or does it end with DOC?
RTF.
Okay. It just might be that something else was added to it. This is sort of fictitious right now. Windows takes the file size and rounds it up to the nearest kilobyte. We good about that? With hard drives that are terabytes in size, it's almost ridiculous to actually measure them out with anything less. So what is a byte? And how do we understand them? A byte is the smallest unit of storage when it comes to a computer. In fact, the only thing a byte can hold is 1 letter. Now, a byte consists of 8 bits. Now, bits is where it gets funny. What exactly is a bit? We were learning how to count in binary. One of those places, just one of those places, was a bit. And with 1 bit, how many numbers could we count? Like 1 switch, you can only count 2 numbers, right? The bit could either be a 0 or it could be a 1. That's it. With 2 bits, how many numbers could we count? So 2 fingers, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 numbers, correct? So if I have 8 bits, how many things can I represent? 256. I get this because you take 2 and you raise it to the power of the number of bits you have. That's a little too much for what we use. In fact, our original text format was 7 bits. But that wasn't enough. We'll explore that in Thursday's class. But I want to bring this point to you. Because when I typed in like 5 or 6 or whatever it was, all I typed in was SIX, right? If each byte is a letter, this file should only be how big? 3 bytes. Don't say bits, bytes. 3 bytes. It would be technically 24 bits. But it says over here 1 kilobyte. Let's right-click on that file and choose Properties. So I right-click right on top of 6, choose Properties. Now you can see the difference between size on disk, and what Windows reports. Now you're asking myself, why have 3 forms of measurements? I told you last Thursday that a file is a container, right? It just holds data. Our programs convert the data into something more useful that we call information. This particular bottle, this container, I believe is a, what does it look like, a pint? It says over here on the size, 20 ounces. So what's a pint? 16 ounces? So it's just a little bit over. But you see how I rounded it down and I said it's a pint, right? Why be technical and say it's 20 ounces? Do I have 20 ounces of fluid in this bottle? No. In fact, I'm lucky to have 4 ounces now. Should I cut the bottle in half just to fit the exact amount of fluid that I have in there? No. It's possible that I could add to this, or I could take away from it, right? And you can do the same thing with your files. You can modify them, add to them, remove content from them. And what's going to happen to the data inside that container? It's going to come up and down. But this space physically has to be allotted some room on my desk, right? So instead of a computer allotting the exact amount, they're going to allot some room to grow. That's why it's saying size on disk. The 4 kilobytes is letting you know that there's technically 4 bottles merged into one so that I can fill them up. When I reach over that, I'll have to get more space on my disk. The next logical space should be right next to where this bottle is, right? If you take a look at my refrigerator at home, it's never the case. I'm always trying to cram things in. I call it the condiment refrigerator because for some reason we just have a fetish for ketchup, mustard, barbecue sauce, but we have nothing of substance. Eggs, cheese, milk, whatever. It's just a bunch of, you guys looking for ketchup, mustard to stop my house, I'll give you bottles of it. And the reason being is, and this is the honest, we have like this nuclear fallout shelter down in the basement, and we go to shopping at Sam's Club, we buy gallons of this stuff, if you will. And it's easier for somebody to go down to the fallout shelter to grab a container than it is trying to find anything in a refrigerator. And what does this contribute to? More and more ketchup bottles in a damn refrigerator. So we need some file management in our refrigerator. But nevertheless, it seems to make sense logically that you wouldn't put all your eggs in the same cartridge or carton, right? But sometimes that's not the case. A dozen eggs fits in, 1 carton. And then when you add another egg to it, what do you need to do? You need a new carton, right? And maybe that carton cannot be stored next to the current carton, whether on top of it, by the side of it, because there's a bunch of other ketchup bottles next to it, right? So now it's up on another shelf. And when I want to bake a cake, not only do I have to grab this 1 carton, but I got to grab the other carton somewhere else. We call that fragmentation. And that's what slows your computer down when you go open up a file. Because if the files are scattered all over the place, it's because you have holes from deleting files every so often. I tell my students, follow the spring cleaning method. You have huge amounts of space. Just like in the refrigerator, if it stays in the refrigerator, and I never bother opening up the refrigerator, it doesn't bother me in the bathroom. That's what happens in your computers. If your computer has a lot of space to it, and the way you can find out, let's close out of this, let me hit cancel. Go to computer. By the way, you saw it was 3 bytes, right? The actual size. Doesn't look like I got that much. But it's still healthy. It's still like in a light color blue or chrome blue. When it gets to red, maybe I start worrying. By deleting a whole bunch of them, it's like me gutting out my refrigerator all at once. Saves time, and it creates larger vacancies so that when you do create new files, they have room next to them to grow. But by you, I don't know, what do they call that? Selectively picking, hen picking or whatever they call that, cherry picking maybe. You create little micro gaps all over your hard drive that need to be filled up. So part of your file is stored here, there, and somewhere else. And that creates long loading times and more wear and tear on your hard drive, which will cause it to crash over time. Right? So a lot of this theory we'll be touching back into it. We'll be covering that when we get to week 4, storage devices. But for now, I'm just laying that groundwork for you. Let's go back to that. So what was it? Documents. And just go to the documents, and you have that folder called Deck of Cards. And I want to be able to give you guys some attendance points. I mean, I remember because it's participation and just being here as well. I want to be able to submit that folder to Blackboard. But like I said earlier, I can't submit a folder to Blackboard, only files, right? The other thing that I got to think about is this folder could be really huge. In this case, it's not. It's just a couple letters. But down the road, your files might be huge, and you want to be considerate of other people's bandwidth. I have a nice fiber coming to my house. I just got it at the end of December. I am so thrilled. And one of these people across California I've been working with asked me for one of my lectures. I'm like, sure, I'll send it to you. It's all in audio. It was like 300 megabytes. This person still has a dial-up connection. Wasn't very thoughtful of me, was it? I got a nice little email saying, is there any way you can compress that and make it smaller for me and break it up into pieces? Yeah, likewise. That word compression does a couple of things. The most important thing it does is it makes it easier for it to transmit over the internet, right? So I'm going to right-click on that folder called Deck of Cards. And then I'm going to come down here where it says Send To, and I'm going to slide over where it says Compressed Folder. By the way, it's technically not a folder. Folders do not have file sizes. In fact, do you see up here it says Deck of Cards, type file folder? Over here it's empty. We know there's data in there, but a folder in itself is just an organizer, right? All right, so now I created this file. They want to call it a folder because it acts like that, but it's technically a file. The way I know it's a file because it says Deck of Cards dot zip, right? Hit enter just to confirm that. Now I also know that it's a file because it takes up space. It's 8 kilobytes. It should take you a second if you have a dial-up connection to upload this. We good about that? These are actually considered files. They are not folders, although they behave like it. Let's double-click on that folder, deckofcards.zip. And when you do that, did it not stay in Windows Explorer? Remember all the other files that we opened up, double-clicked, went into that application that was used to create it? But now you see Deck of Cards. Let's double-click on that. And you see all your folders that you created in this class. This is the problem, and I get this from time to time to time because when you guys download things from my IT lab, it'll be in a compressed file. It'll end with .zip. You guys download it, you open it up, you make your way to the instructions, you print the instructions out. In fact, let me show you that. You can open up files in here. Let me go to Spades. Let me open up the Ace. And just like that, it opened up. And just like this, let me change my printer. It's printing. However, you will do all your work in this file. You will reach the end of the file, and you might try to save it. And it will not allow you to save it. And you will lose all your work, and you are scratching your head. So you get creative, and you do a copy. You open up a new file, and you paste it. And then you save it, and then you upload it to my IT lab, and my IT lab gives you an F, and they send me an email saying that there's plagiarism going in the class. When you download a file from my IT lab, they build a digital signature into that file. It's registered to your username. Okay? you gotta be careful about this. Now I know you're doing something legitimate because something happened that went down the wrong path and you thought, well, I can quickly fix it by copying and pasting it into a new one. Seems kosher. But when you create a new file, it's not that file that has that digital signature. So when my IT lab gets it, they're saying to themselves, how do I know that you just didn't grab somebody else's flash drive who had all the work done, copied it, pasted it into a file of your own? Do you see their legitimacy behind that? How do I know it's going to give me a hard time? First of all, up in the title bar, it says read only. Why does it say read only when I open it up inside, quote unquote, a folder? It's not a folder. It is a file. The only way you play with Legos is you open up the box and you spill them all over the floor and you have fun. When you download a compressed file, a file that ends with ZIP, make sure you extract the contents, opening up the box. Otherwise, when you go inside the box and you start trying to do what I just did here, you go to save it, it will be problematic. Okay? How do you extract the file from that compressed folder? Close out of this program if you opened it up by chance. Go back to the beginning of it. So in this case, I'm going to go back to Documents. So I'm going to click on My Documents. I have this deck of cards.zip, right? What have we been doing throughout this whole class? Right-clicking on everything. So let's right-click on Deck of Cards and choose Extract All. If all goes well, you should have this wizard that pops up that's going to walk you through this process. The first question that they're going to ask you is, where do you want to store this at? Let's save this to the desktop. So let's click on Browse. First item up top of this list is desktop. Let's click on that. Let's click OK. And let's hit extract. Notice there was a check that said show contents after being extracted. I like that. And if all goes well, the desktop folder should pop up. Did you guys have this pop up? Scroll down until you find Deck of Cards. There it is. Open it up. I'm going to go back to Spades. So let me open up that folder called Spades. And let me open up Ace. Do you notice in my title bar it doesn't say anything about it being read-only now? Somebody sends you a package in the mail. First thing you do is you open it up before you actually play with it, right? If you are downloading these packages off of My IT Lab or Blackboard, make sure you extract them before you start manipulating them. Okay? All right, I got a couple minutes. I know I promised you guys My IT Lab and Blackboard. We'll save that for Thursday. No big deal. I've already had the videos posted. If you guys go on Blackboard, which I'm going to have to do right now, so let me close out of all this garbage. I'm going to open up Firefox. I'm going to go in the address bar and type in myccc.corning-cc.edu. I'm going to click on this little login button right here. Supply it with my school credentials. By the way, do not remember your passwords on these lab computers. In fact, don't ever remember your passwords, even if you're on another lab computer. Just don't do it. It's really foolish. All right, let me come over here and click on Blackboard. And by the way, I will extend the lab due date for file management to this weekend, okay? Because I didn't get enough time to explain how to attach something. So, lab file management will be due this weekend. We'll spend Thursday finalizing Blackboard. Is everybody kosher with that? Because I can make it due Thursday. It's like pulling teeth with you guys. I don't get it. All right. So over here under your courses, you guys should have the 1390.005 folder or link. So you guys might have the My Calendar, and it'll say lab file due by end of day on Thursday. which should be the 31st, right? That'll get changed, so I will fix that. It might even appear underneath my task, lab file management. You know, you guys have that, right? So anytime I post an announcement or anything else like that, it might show up here in this home page. Over on the left side, click on the content link. The syllabus is there that we went over last week. You can see week 1 stuff. By the way, the video that I made last Thursday, the audio got gargled up. Just like today, I forgot to remind you guys to turn off your cell phones. So I'm hoping that this audio is good, but if the audio doesn't sound right, trust me, it's no fun watching the videos. But as you can see, there's a week 2 folder. Click on that. And I have a video posted called Getting Started with My IT Lab. This will show you how to register, how to download the installer, how to get it all ready for you at home, all right? So please watch that so when you come to see me on Thursday, we can actually swing into My IT Lab. And I also posted a link if you guys bought the e-text, how to get to that, okay? Scroll down. You can see I already assigned you a weekly reading assignment. But underneath that, there's the how to submit an assignment deck of cards, right? Let's click on that. When you click on an assignment, the assignment information should show up. So let me scroll down. You see I actually have a file already attached to it. See assignment files, and then there's a link right there. Does everybody have that? This would be the instructions on how to do the particular lab, right? So when you guys click on that, and I try to keep it as a PDF, it might be an RTF. When you click on it, depending on what type of file it is, your web browser might open it up already, or it might ask you to download it. Everybody good about that? At this point in time, I would recommend, and I wouldn't have you guys do it today, but I would recommend that this is what you print out. This is your assignment sheet. This is just telling you guys how to submit an assignment, okay? So the lab file management, that's what you guys would do. Let's go back to the other tab that says Blackboard Learn. Now I did all this work. Let me scroll down. Do you see I have this button that says Browse My Computer for Attached File? Let me click on that. Now this is where that file management comes in real handy. I know today I did all my work in the folder called Documents, right? Let's click on that folder called Documents. And I know I'm not allowed to attach folders to Blackboard, right? So I got to scroll down and find that file called deckofcards.zip. So there it is, deckofcards.zip. Let me click Open. I hate that. I wish it would just say Attach. But please just click Open. Now in order for me to get it, the last thing you need to do is scroll right down to the bottom of this page and click Submit. Now I'm sorry guys, I ran 2 minutes over time. Like I always do, Thursday we'll step back, we'll get right into Blackboard. I want to make sure that I lay this foundation out for you guys when it comes to file management, because we'll be generating a lot of files in this class. Of course, I will have other videos posted this week to reinsure that these skills are established.